Joining us now, Peter Navarro. He's the assistant to the president and director of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy. Peter, great to have you on again, man.
Hey, John, always a pleasure. I had a great trip yesterday with the president, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Army in Lima, Ohio. This place was so cool. It's the last remaining tank plant in the Western Hemisphere. The Obama administration wanted to shut the thing down, and that place was just hopping yesterday with very grateful workers who knew that this administration had saved their job. But that plant is so important to America. So we had good fun out there. But boy, I tell you, this president is making things happen around this country.
Now, when you were there in the plant talking to workers, Peter Navarro, just give us some anecdotes. What were some of the workers saying? Because really, it was the Obama administration that, during the sequestration, tried to shut this plant down, right? So all those people would have been out of jobs. Now it's in a resurgence. What were some of the workers saying?
So there was two workers that shared the stage with the president, and one of them, let me make sure I get this right, but he had actually been working at the plant. His son was using the tank out in the field, and I mean, you can't. It's just amazing that you can close a loop like that. And he had been in the military himself. The problem in Lima, Ohio, if you go there, it's a very rural area. Jobs are hard to come by, and there was like desperation before the president brought that plant back. And these people, they were just working hard, really hard patriots, working hard. One of the most interesting moments, because there's a strong UAW presence there, and the president gave a shout out to the UAW, and he started talking about how there's such a disconnect between the workers themselves and the union leaders, where the workers support the president and the union leaders don't. And he got cheers for that from the audience. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But here's the theme, John, of the whole trip was this theme that's really important to this administration, which is economic security is national security. And the idea is simply that if you create good jobs at good wages, that helps the economy. But when you're also strengthening the manufacturing and defense industrial base, that helps us protect national security. And if you look at this Lima plant, so during Obama, when they tried to shut it down, it went down to like a ghost town. There were like 75 people working there. It's up to over 600 now. It's moving to over 1,000. That may not seem like a lot of jobs to your listeners, but what happens in Lima doesn't stay in Lima. You've got 198 suppliers in Ohio alone, spread across the entire state, making things like bearings and castings and electronic components for the tanks. And then nationally, they make the engines in Alabama. They make the gun turrets in Watervliet Arsenal in upstate New York. They make the transmissions in Indiana. I mean, you go around the country, and the point being that what we're trying to do as an administration is revitalize and onshore our supply chain as a way of strengthening our manufacturing and industrial base, defense industrial base. That helps our national security, but it also creates economic prosperity in these communities. And that's the message we heard. I mean, everybody was smiling. They were cheering. The place was packed. It's kind of cool when you're looking at big American flags and tanks. And these tanks have a long history going back to the Normandy invasion. Back then it was the Shermans. Today it's the Abrams.
Well, you know, Peter, what you said about national security, how it ties in, you're so right about that. Workers in America, they just want good-paying jobs, because you have a good-paying job, it changes your family, changes your economic situation. You can be a better father or mom to your children, It gives you the resources to send kids to college and not accumulate debt. But then, as you said, Peter, the national security aspect of it. I mean, before your policies were being enacted in the Trump administration, you nailed it. All of our supply chains were being shipped overseas for cheap labor. And so what happens is, maybe somebody at the Libertarian Institute or the Cato Institute can put a white paper out on how you were able to buy something for, 5 cents under what it would be somewhere else. But the bottom line is you were giving away your military and security supply chains to other countries. You can't survive that way. That doesn't make any sense at all, right?
Yeah, John, it's such a keen observation, and it's something that I think it's really important for all Americans to understand. I think there's a strong fraction of people in this country who get that, but I'm not sure that it occurs to people that when we globalize our supply chain, we're not just shipping our jobs offshore and hollowing out our manufacturing communities. We're also losing our ability to defend the homeland because we're weakening our defense industrial base. And so when the way the president brought this tank plant back, Obama wanted to just shut it down. It was like incredibly myopic. The way the president did this, working closely with the Secretary of the Army, a couple of really important people up on Capitol Hill. Shout out for Mike Turner there, great congressman from the great state of Ohio, and the Pentagon. So the incremental spend, there's not many times you can do this, John, but the incremental spend on combat vehicles was done in such a way that we were achieving tremendous economies of scale and actually lowering the unit costs of these tanks by about 20%.
Right.
So we're able to claw back a lot of that incremental spend just by accelerating and modernizing the production process. And again, that's why you need a commander-in-chief who understands business as well as government. And those are the kinds of differences the president's making. And it's not just that he's spending more on defense, he's spending better on defense. And Acting Secretary of Defense Pat Shanahan was at this thing. That's the sweet spot of Shanahan. He understands how to innovate, use dollars to innovate. And Mark Esper, the Secretary of the Army, and what a class guy. He really has his handle on how to get things done. So great trip yesterday. It was a lot of fun.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We are with Peter Navarro, live at the White House. Peter is the assistant to the president and director of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy in the Trump administration. Peter, you're doing a fabulous job. I sleep better knowing that you're in there every day. The job resurgence, the manufacturing job resurgence that we've had in America over the past 18 months as a direct result of the president's trade and manufacturing policies. Can you speak to that a little bit and what you see as far as the next, say, 18 months with manufacturing jobs?
So, yeah, sure. I remember back out on the campaign trail when I was talking about the Trump strategy, the Trump economic plan. We had 4 points of the compass that we wanted to hit. One was to get the corporate tax rate lowered to stimulate investment. The second was deregulation, which acts, as an economist, the language is a supply-side shock, a positive supply-side shock, where you're able to lower the cost of production for American manufacturers, and that makes them more competitive globally. So you got tax cuts, deregulation. We wanted to unleash our energy sector, which lowers costs for our producers. Again, that's more globally competitive. And then on the trade issue, we wanted just simply to level the playing field. It's amazing, John, that most of the world charges us significantly higher tariffs and imposes all sorts of unfair trade practices. We run these huge deficits with them, and that hurts our growth prospects. So what the president said is, let's fix all of these things, let's do it simultaneous, and that's going to get us our strong growth. And so, if you simply look at where we're at now. We're creating more jobs than we have people to fill them. We've got record low unemployment rates for blacks and Hispanics. We're at a 65-year low for women in the workforce. We see strong investment. We see strong optimism in manufacturing. As the head of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy, I love it when we see that we've created like 500,000 manufacturing jobs since Election Day, tens of thousands of them in the state of Ohio, which we observed yesterday. So we're doing everything right. I think we had an unfortunate hiccup when the Fed was raising rates. I think we've got that kind of steady now going forward. So maybe that won't be a drag on the economy. But and the one thing I can tell you, John, is that this president, every day he gets up and goes to the Oval Office, he's thinking about how to put men and women in America back to work, particularly those who work with their hands. And that's what we do. That's what our focus is on.
Peter, 500,000 new manufacturing jobs in the United States created since the president took office, and because of his policies that, just so my audience knows, Peter Navarro is crafting every day in the White House. You know what's amazing is, remember when we were having this debate? Now, it's easy for me. I'm a protectionist, so I go back in history, and I believe in you have to have tariffs in order to protect your industry, your workers, and things of that nature. So it was easy for me because I've been a protectionist forever, and I'm proud to say it, right? I know a lot of people want to say fair trade. I'm just a protectionist. I want to protect our supply chains and our jobs. And remember the debate that we were having, and these so-called free traders were saying how it would cause a recession and that you wouldn't get any jobs out of it and people would be paying higher and the economy would tank. You've implemented your policies, and the exact opposite has happened. Where's the people that were saying? Exactly as I predicted, and you predicted.
I mean, it's like when you run these trade deficits, they slow your growth down, right? Now, just intuitively think about that. If we're buying cars from Germany or Japan, we're not producing them here, right? So there's more jobs. We're creating employment in Bavaria and Yokohama. I mean, what's wrong with that picture?
It is, not one time have one of the people that criticized the Trump trade policies during the campaign and said what a disaster it would be, not one of them has said, you know what, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is working. Now, I want you to talk about something else. We're with Peter Navarro. He's the assistant to the president and director of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy. In the last 12 months, our trade deficit has actually gone up. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, this is a deep concern to me, deep concern to the president. We're unfortunately in this short-term victims of our own success because of the rapid growth that we've had, the higher interest rates that the Fed burdened us with, pushed the dollar up. That made us buy more imports and sell less exports. We're trying to get the new NAFTA, known as the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, passed, which will help our trade deficit with Mexico, but that's going to take another 60, 90 days, and then we won't feel the effects of that. So this is a concern, but we're doing everything we can to get this playing field leveled. There's a lot, there's negotiations going on with Europe, with China, with Japan, Mexico, Canada. Let's see if we can nail all that down and then see where we are with the trade deficit when the dust settles. But I can tell you this, big trade deficits are bad because they transfer our wealth to foreign hands, and we got to get our handle on that. We're working hard trying to do that.
But you would agree with me that basically to get the trade deficit down, your policies are going to do that, but there's a lag. I mean, there's
a lag. That's the problem.
Yeah.
In fact, I should have just said that.
I mean,
well put, sir. You get your honorary PhD in economics, I'll lend you mine for the day. And that's exactly right. I mean, it's like we're not going to feel the effects of the South Korea deal for some months yet. The China deal, which may or may not happen, the effects of that are probably over a year away,
right.
Depending on how that goes. So we're working hard, and meanwhile, we need to have the Fed stop raising interest rates so the dollar doesn't skyrocket and things like that. So, but look, at the end of the day, people look around their communities. They're better off today than they were when President Trump took office. And it's not an accident. It's a well-crafted, integrated, synergistic strategy based on the 4 points of that compass I talked about earlier.
Okay, I've only got a couple more minutes, and I know you have to take off, Peter Navarro, but let's give a little love to your trade negotiator. How's he doing?
Oh, I love Bob Lighthizer. So I always say that Bob Lighthizer is the best United States trade representative we've ever had, but then right. I have to, just so he doesn't get a big head, have to point out that the USTR has only been around for 30, 40 years. It's not since the revolution, right? No, he's doing great. I don't know how he gets everything done because he's got a lot of balls in the air with Mexico, Canada, Japan, Great Britain, China, Europe. So,
EU, right.
Let's give him some love, and he's going to get the job done for us, just like this president is.
Well, he's doing a fabulous job. And look, all of these trade deals that have been renegotiated, whether it be NAFTA, the new one now that we have, I think it's called the USMC, right?
USMCA. It's like as the president said yesterday in Lima, like the song YMCA, right? USMCA.
USMCA. You renegotiated Korea. You're renegotiating all the deals with Germany, the European Union, etc. We got tariffs there. I mean, all this stuff takes time. But the bottom line is manufacturing jobs up 500,000. It's being revitalized. Steel. The steel industry was gone in the United States. The Chinese were dumping steel and aluminum in the U.S. forever. That industry has been revitalized. Peter Navarro, we're out of time. The next time you come on, we'll get back to China and your policies there, but I'm out of time for this segment, and I know you have to take off. I really appreciate the time and the fabulous work that you're doing. Peter Navarro, assistant to the president.
Well, we love what you're doing out there. You're carrying the beacon out there and letting people know about these important issues, particularly related to trade, John. So carry on, and we'll talk again soon.
I am the beacon of trade truth, Peter, in America.
Yes, indeed.
Right
you
here.
are the beacon of trade truth. I like that.
And the Godzilla of the truth of trade. Peter, I got to go. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time. John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right